The horrors of Gaza and Palestine will never leave us. The savagery and brutality of the Zionist slaughter have breached retinal boundaries once reserved only for the participants of warfare. Israel's unbridled assault on humanity occurs in the era of communicative capitalism, where vast sections of the world's population are in possession of technologies that can document events and distribute them in a heartbeat. In the case of Gaza, it is all too often the last heartbeat. What is our role in this? What should our individual or collective response be in the face of this man-made disaster? Is the perversion of modernity such that the horrors of genocide are no different to any other sack of digital grist for the algorithmic mill? As we bear witness to cracked skulls, dismembered limbs, screams of anguish and rivers of blood sandwiched between the tits, ass and steak frites of our dopamine doom scrolls, are we simply reduced to impotent spectators? Does the arrogance and vulgarity of Zionist capital demonstrate that ethnic cleansing and forced famine can be imposed upon a people and broadcast to the world with impunity and without recourse? Perhaps so. But there is one action we can take, and that is the only action available to us. We can resist. We can assume an ideological opposition to Zionism, reject the ineptitude of our hamstrung leaders, and refuse to be silent in the face of evil. Social media, X in particular, is a landscape populated by many actors competing for our attention. Opportunists, provocateurs, journalists, content farmers, ardent academics, virtue signallers, racists, shit-posting extremists, and every iteration in between. For the past 19 months, it has also included a large presence of voices expressing anti-Zionist and pro-Palestinian views. Among those voices is Tommy Sheridan, the former Scottish Socialist Party leader who imploded the party after lying about his carnal pursuits. Tommy Sheridan is an interesting guy, a man who inspired and galvanised many with his anti-establishment, anti-poll tax campaigning. Some see him as an authentic slice of class-conscious, working-class Ouijaness, cut from the same cloth as Maclean, Hardy and Reid, fighting for the downtrodden and oppressed. Others insist he is a malignant narcissist, cynically appropriating the class struggle as a vehicle to public notoriety and self-reward. Whichever version of Tommy one subscribes to, what cannot be denied is his consistent and public support for Palestinian liberty and his vehement criticism of the genocidal state of Israel. Which is why I took particular exception last Saturday evening when I was alerted to a post on X by a chap called Mike Daly. I have little knowledge of Mr. Daly, though I was surprised to find I had his account muted, an action I rarely take and couldn't recall the reason for. He had posted about the Bath-based internet blogger Stuart Campbell, aka Wings Over Scotland, expressing support in the form of a character reference coupled with an ad hominem insult directed at myself. This was presumably in reference to a series of exchanges I had had with Campbell on X regarding his continual derision of pro-Palestine supporters. Campbell's attitude towards groups protesting Israel and its allies is evident to anyone paying attention. He consistently ridicules and mocks those opposing the genocide, telling them that if they are so concerned with the horror, they should fuck off to Gaza and go and fight themselves. And he frequently derides them as stupid cunts, smelly, and fucking idiots. He also enjoys a cosy online dynamic with the repugnant and unashamed Zionist champion Graham Linehan. On the same Saturday, Campbell had taken particular umbrage at a small number of Palestinian activists attending a march for Scottish independence, who were carrying Palestinian flags. Campbell insists that the issue of Palestine is irrelevant to the cause of Scottish independence, that pro-Palestinian protesters have no place at marches for Scottish sovereignty, and that their presence harms the optics of the movement. I, and many others, disagree entirely with this perspective. The fundamental basis of Scottish independence is the desire to emancipate Scotland from Westminster rule and to dismantle the British state. Given that Britain is complicit in the genocide, it seems to me germane that those opposing the most vicious expression of UK foreign policy should not only attend marches for independence, but should be wholeheartedly welcomed when doing so. The perversion of British assistance in the crime of the century provides a moral and ideological rung on the Scottish independence escape ladder. This view is also shared by none other than Kenny McCaskill, the recently elected leader of the AlBA party, the same party where Tommy Sheridan sits on the governing body and is widely expected to stand as a candidate in next year's Holyrood election. Which is why I have elected to address this issue.
We were told in 2014 that Britain would be a force for good. Instead, it's not just complicit, but facilitating a genocide in Gaza, selling arms and allowing its military bases to be used. Oh, for Scotland to be an independent nation speaking out against this horror like Ireland.
It was brought to my attention that Mr Daly's veneration of wings and personal insult aimed at me had been retweeted by both Neil Hanvey, the deputy leader of the AlBA party, and Tommy Sheridan. Tommy Sheridan's endorsement of wings over Scotland in the context of a live-streamed genocide isn't just poor judgment, it is a shameful betrayal of principle. To publicly back Stuart Campbell, a man whose puerility extends to ridiculing those protesting Israel's slaughter, is to spit in the face of international solidarity. Genocide is no laughing matter. That is why those of us committed to opposing this ongoing atrocity must remain resolute. We cannot allow agents of Zionism or the British state to pollute our demands for Palestinian human rights and liberty. This isn't about tone. It's not about a Twitter beef. It's about aligning with someone who, at a time when thousands are being slaughtered and starved, uses his platform to mock, belittle and deride those standing up for the victims. By amplifying Mr Daly's post and continuing to repost Wing's content, Sheridan undermines not only his own reputation, but the credibility of the broader Scottish independence movement. If the genuine pursuit of Scottish independence is worth a damn, it must oppose imperialism in all forms. And right now, Britain's imperial legacy is being played out in real time in Gaza, with weapons, money and diplomatic cover. Kenny McCaskill, the leader of Sheridan's own party, has been clear. Opposing genocide and opposing Westminster are not separate fights. They are part of the same struggle. You cannot credibly claim to resist British rule while offering cover to those who ridicule resistance to British-backed war crimes. Perhaps, though, Tommy Sheridan's decision to repost Mr Daly's statement was less about Wings being an upstanding citizen and more about me being an arsehole. If that is the case, it no less questions Sheridan's basic judgment. But Tommy may wish to consider another factor in his implied contempt towards myself. I have never met Stuart Campbell, nor have I met Mr Daly. But I have met Tommy Sheridan many years ago because we shared a mutual friend. Here is a picture that I took myself on a night out in Glasgow where Tommy was interviewing my friend Jerry Conlon, a man who was equally no stranger to the evils of the British establishment. Tommy is seen here with another dear friend of mine, Natalie Hendry, one of Scotland's most talented and underappreciated artists, who was herself no less a victim of British class oppression. And another mutual associate, a man of great moral fibre, Paddy Hill. All three of these individuals are now dead. All three suffered directly as a result of the perverted British state and its cruel social policies, and all three spent considerably more time at Her Majesty's pleasure than Mr. Sheridan. If Jerry Conlon were here today, I have no doubt whatsoever where his solidarity would reside, both in regards to the Palestinian cause and to me, his friend, who appreciated his value and vulnerabilities and admired his courage eternally. Over the last 2 decades, Scotland has experienced an extended period of misrule and subterfuge from a morally bankrupt, culturally conceited establishment of neoliberal opportunists. We have witnessed the rise and fall of hope and the insulting dilution and fracturing of an independence movement by those elected as its trustees. In short, we have been sold a pup. If we are to have any hope whatsoever of ridding ourselves of the scourge of the neoliberal political class and their collusive, complicit media, and setting Scotland on a path to independent governance, we must be honest enough to recognise the roles we all play in raising consciousness. Bastards like Nigel Farage are seizing the ground neglected by our incumbent political class. The idea that a reactionary, merchant banking, right-wing mouthpiece has the slightest concern for the working class or the inequity of capitalist relations is beyond laughable. But the threat of reform is real, and their presence in Holyrood is now almost guaranteed. If the AlBA leadership believe that maintaining public relations with an unreconstructed imbecile in Somerset who ejaculates daily bile towards humanitarian activists is a necessary position to assume as they ready themselves for an electoral campaign, then they are sending a message to every man, woman and child in Scotland that their word isn't worth the paper it is printed on. Politics is a serious business, and genocide is the gravest of issues. Thus, there can be no room for hypocrisies or compromising principles. The people of Scotland, and by that note, the people of Palestine, deserve better. So are AlBA. Free Palestine.
When they knock down your door and say that they are taking your land in the name of eminent domain, this is not fair. Resist. When they pit up people against the people in the